We have set up the live streaming. We are live. Yes, we are live on YouTube, live on Facebook at the very same time as being here in the Zoom room. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you've just joined us in the Zoom room, type in where you're watching us from. I'm talking to you from the Sunshine Coast in Australia. We can see people from the Philippines, Michigan, Alberta, Canada, USA, Las Vegas, Illinois, Ontario, Canada, San Diego, people coming from absolutely everywhere, which is fantastic. Now, as we kick off the call, before we do, I just want to point something out, and I'll speak slowly because I know the Aussies do speak fast. If you are speaking another language and you would like to read alongside the presentation today, please go to the chat. And when you go to the chat, you'll click Wordly, and that will allow you to read at the same time in whatever your local dialect is. We will continue to post into the chat in the Zoom room the Wordly link, in which case, as people come in later, they'll be able to see that. So as we kick off the event, let me just introduce myself. Michael Firth, my name. I'm actually one of the founding advisory board members of the company and a Crown. I've known Steve Scott now for about 18 years. We've been great friends for all this time. Steve and I met when he was pioneering the research space into glutathione with a different company, a different product some time ago. If you don't know Steve, I'll guarantee you've been touched by him in some way on television, because Steve was one of the most influential people in direct response television infomercials. And of course, about 8 years ago, we had a discovery called HydraStat you're going to hear about today. But we love this call because you're going to get to know my beautiful friend Steve Scott, his heart, his vision for the company, not just the technology today. So with that in mind, Steve, if you want to unmute, I'll hand the call to our founder, Stephen K. Scott.
Well, hello, everybody. It's nice to be back on these Thursday calls. We do them once a month on the third Thursday of every month. This kind of took us by surprise this month because we thought it was like the second Thursday, because we didn't count January 1st. That was a Thursday. And so happy New Year. I hope you had a wonderful holiday season. And we have a great 2026 in store. So many amazing things happening, events, new products coming your way. We have just so much going on. We've now been approved. For example, we've been sports certified. So now any athlete, professional athlete, this is a big deal. No other glutathione product has been certified for sport. So the NFL, National Football League, Major League Baseball, the Olympics, and the NCAA now say to their athletes, we'll be able to say, you can use this product. That's huge, because we see amazing results with athletes. And as they have big results, they're usually not quiet about it. And so we're just excited about that. That's just one thing that I'm going to be focusing on this year. We're going to be coming to different markets. I'm soon to go to Canada and then Mexico. Ryan gets to go to, let's see, right now we have Sergio going to Europe. Aaron's going to be going to Asia. Then after that, Michael Firth and Ryan will be going to Asia, Indonesia, Thailand, other countries. And so we're seeing an explosion, and there's a reason for it. But I've been asked for tonight's call to change up the format just a little bit. Aaron's told me that people love hearing my background. I don't know why. I guess everybody fails. And so I'm going to give you, for those of you that are new to this call, I will share a little bit on myself. And for those of you that aren't new, please forgive me. But this is what I've been asked to do. So let's talk about Steve Scott for a minute. Steve Scott was a failure, not just once, not just twice. I flunked out of 9 jobs in 6 years. I asked today, we had a staff, we have a book club, and today was our first meeting, and the employees had chosen one of my books. And so I don't think everybody knew how much failure I had. I graduated from college with a degree in marketing, which includes advertising, from Arizona State University in 1970. And because nobody wanted a marketing guy with no experience, none of the companies that had marketing departments would hire me. And so my first job was selling life insurance and being in a management training program. And I'll tell you how good I did on that one. In 6 months, I sold 2 policies, one to me and one to one of my dear friends in seminary, a former roommate of mine. And when I was kind of asked to look for a new career after 6 months, I terminated my policy. I couldn't afford the $25 a month anymore. So I lost that commission. That was $15 a month. And when I told my friend that I was no longer with that company, he said, "Oh, good." He said, "Can I stop paying my premiums now?" I said, "Well, I still count on your commission." He said, "Well, how much do you make?" I said, $15 a month. He said, "Great, I'm paying 25. I'll stop paying my premium and I'll send you 15 a month." I said, "No, Lynn, that's okay." So he stopped paying his. That was job number 1, not a super success. Job number 2, I started a company with 3 partners, and we were real successful in our first 6 months. That it was geared towards student marketing at Arizona State. So a man offered to back us nationwide if we could duplicate the results that we had at Arizona State at the University of Maryland. So myself and one of the partners moved to Maryland, and we came up strikeout. In fact, bases loaded strikeout. We called on over 100 professors, and we were able to sign 3. Not good. And so that killed that. So then I was off to job number 3. Job number 3 was my first marketing job. And I was so excited. It was a big company, 3,500 employees. And the marketing department had about 120 people. It was mainly a marketing company. And I was hired on probation because my first 2 jobs didn't last too long. And I asked my boss, I said, "What does probation mean?" He said, "Well, if you do well in 9 months, you'll get a raise. And if you don't do well in 9 months, we'll ask you to leave." Well, you can guess what happened. After 9 months, I got called into my boss's office. He sat on the corner of his desk, smiled at me, and he said, "Steve, you are the single greatest disappointment in my entire career. You will never succeed in marketing, my chosen field. You've got 20 minutes to clean out your desk." And I started cleaning out the desk, throwing all the stuff into a grocery bag. And I was okay until I got to the very last thing on the desk. And that was that was a picture of my now 9-month-old baby daughter, my first child. And when I saw that picture, I started crying because Dad had blown it again. Out of college a little over a year and already lost 3 jobs. Little did I know I had 6 more jobs to lose in the next 4 years. I couldn't succeed no matter how hard I tried. And I really tried hard. I had a daughter. Later, I had another son. I had a mortgage to pay. You'll die when you hear what my mortgage payments were, $195 a month. And things were cheaper then, right? And my house cost me $29,000. And I liked that house. It was very small, but it was really nice. And so anyway, after I lost my 5th job, a dear friend of mine who was the wisest man I've ever known, he was 8 years older than me, and he lived in Chicago, and he was visiting me from Chicago. And I said, "Gary, I don't understand it. I'm not stupid. I have a good IQ. I'm not lazy. I'm first in and last out on every job, even for the big companies. And I understand my craft, marketing, consumer psychology. I know all that, but I just can't succeed. I don't know what to do." And Gary said something very wise. He said, "Let me pray about it." He didn't try to come up, "Well, you ought to read this book. Well, Tony Robbins says this, or somebody says that." No, he said, "Let me pray about it." The next morning, he came into the kitchen and he said, "How would you like to be wiser than all your bosses?" I was 26 years old. I said, "Yeah, right." He said, "No, there's something you can do for 2 years. Do that. And in 2 years, you'll be wiser than all your bosses. And in 5 years, you'll probably be a millionaire." And that really made me laugh because Gary and I had breakfast that day, not because I had money for groceries, but because 2 women in a Bible study I taught had left groceries on my doorstep anonymously. It's the only reason we had breakfast that day. That's how broke I was. And so I said, what do I do? And he said, 31 chapters in the book of Proverbs, 31 days of the month. Proverbs in the Bible is called the book of wisdom. And he said, if you read the chapter of the day, so like today's date is the 15th, so I'd read Proverbs chapter 15. He said, do it with pencil and paper in hand, write down the wisdom and strategies you find, and begin to apply those to your work immediately. He said, do that for 2 years. It'll take you through the book of Proverbs 24 times. And I promise you, it will change everything. I didn't believe it, but I decided, what do I have to lose? I'm certainly not going to lose a job over it because I've already lost my jobs and I'm out of work. So I started reading this wonderful book of Proverbs and writing down the wisdom, the insights that I gained. And in the next 18 months, I went through jobs number 6, 7, 8, and 9. And but I found these incredible strategies, and I had 2 great mentors who mentored me in the skill sets to apply those strategies. Well, they all came into focus on job number 9. That was a big catalog company, and I doubled in the 4 months I worked there, I doubled their sales from $30 million to $60 million. So they were all excited. They offered to make me vice president of marketing, double my salary, give me a company Mercedes if I would stay. But I decided I have enough energy to try one more business. So I moved clear across country. Michael, that'd be like from Perth to Sunshine Coast, to Philadelphia. And with $5,000, my partner and I, it was his money because I was still broke, but we started this little wannabe company called American Telecast. And 5 months later, our sales hit $1 million a week, week in, week out. Then it went to 2 million a week, then 3 million a week, then 4 million a week. We kept finding products. The key to the success was we'd find breakthrough products that the world had never seen. And then we'd marry it to a major celebrity, a movie star that was typically a Academy Award-winning star, Emmy Award-winning television stars, Hall of Fame athletes. I mean, we started contracting these guys for the different products. By the time I retired, we had done over $5 billion in sales. And life had been really nice to myself, my partner, and his 4 kids. And so, that lasted 35 years. It would have kept going. But in 2006, I met an amazing man. I got a call from an investment banker of all people. And he said, I've studied your profile. I understand what makes you tick. You look for breakthroughs. I said, that's right. He said, I've got the biggest breakthrough you'll find in your lifetime. And I thought, yeah, right. You know, the biggest television marketing channel in the world, QVC, entered into a contract with us because they couldn't make infomercials work. And we were hitting home runs frequently, 3 out of 4 projects, in fact. And they said, we're turning all our infomercial marketing over to you guys. You guys really know what you're doing. We failed on 39 out of 39. You're batting what? Well, at that time, it was actually 92%. And so we want to we want to be the pipeline of product. You pay us a little royalty and we'll do great. We all got excited. Man, we're going to, in 5 years, they brought us 1,000 products. Do you know we never did one infomercial on one of those products? Why? They weren't breakthroughs. What's a breakthrough? A breakthrough is something that can do something that no other product in the world can do as effectively, efficiently, or economically. And so we were always looking for products that were breakthroughs. And here, this guy who doesn't even know me says he's going to give me the biggest breakthrough of my life. And I said, what is it? He said, oh, it's a medical product. I said, great. That sounds great. And he said, it's a supplement. And I said, nope, not interested. Go away. I don't believe in supplements. All they've ever done is turn light yellow urine into bright yellow urine for me, and I don't need to pay for that. And he said, no, this is different. It can be measured in the blood, and it makes an experiential difference. People, when they get on this product, they don't want to get off. They love it that much. And I said, well, tell me about it. He says, I can. I'm not a medical expert, but I'll put the inventor of this formula, he was with the Mayo Clinic, is an expert, and I'll let him explain it. So we all met at Chuck Norris's house in Dallas, Texas. I brought the doctor out. I flew there. Chuck was there with his attorneys and stuff. And we heard for the very first time the word glutathione. So what's glutathione? Glutathione is the most important molecule in life. It's just as important as oxygen, because without it, there's no life on Earth. No plants, trees, animals, insects, people. Earth becomes a brown planet without glutathione. It's the most studied molecule in all of medical science. Over 198,000 published studies that are cataloged in PubMed, America's Library of Medical Science. 198, that's more than vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin E, CoQ10, superoxide dismutase, catalase, all the other antioxidants combined don't have that many studies. Why is it so studied? Because there's not one area of life it doesn't impact. It impacts your performance. And you say, well, I'm not a performer. Hey, you want to bet? You get out of bed and either get out of bed, oh, crap, time to get up, another day. Or you get up, okay, I'm ready for the day. Or you get up, man, I got so much to do today. I'm so excited, okay? That's performing. You've got to perform. If you're a homemaker, you've got kids that want things. You've got a husband or wife that wants things. You have grandkids that need you. And so that's performance, okay? How you get through your day emotionally, physically, psychologically, health-wise, all of that is dependent on this molecule called glutathione. I didn't know any of this. So I started studying it. We decided to make up a few thousand bottles. It was patented. And we circulated those with various people. And guess what? Everybody loved it. So my wife and I committed, we actually wrote a check for over $1 million to launch this company. And that's the company where Michael and I met and other wonderful people met. Only problem is I wasn't managing the company. I was still in television, so I had to rely on managers. And that ended up being a nightmare. I separated from that company. I think it was like, in 2017. And it had done 500 million in sales, but it wasn't a joyful experience. So we left. In 2016, I had started working with some nanoscientists, scientists that could help make products, not really shrink the products, but make them in a more deliverable form to where the particles didn't carry a lot of other stuff with them, like lipids and fats, liposomes. And so we started researching, myself, one of the scientists, and Gordon Crozier, who's on our medical board. Gordon had known me for years, and Gordon was part of my research team. And sure enough, we did it. We created a way to deliver glutathione more effectively than IV glutathione, more effectively than liposomal glutathione. In fact, the most effective delivery system for glutathione in the world. And what happened? You won't even believe, but I'll tell you. Michael, let's go to Bill Gillespie. When we created this in 2018, I knew if we had really done it what I thought we had done, it would change human performance. And a friend of mine was Bill Gillespie. He was a strength and conditioning coach for an American football team called the Seattle Seahawks, pro football. And then he went to a university to fulfill a promise he had made to the guy who gave him his education decades earlier, and became their strength and conditioning coach for their football team. And I had known Bill since 2008, and I called up Bill. I wanted him to try this product and see if it made a difference. So I called him up. How you doing, Bill? He said, not good. I said, what's going on? He says, oh man. He says, my job's fine, Steve, but he says, as you know, I work 12 to 16-hour days during the football season, and putting all the players through their training, all sorts of training, and conditioning. And he says, I'm 10 years older. He set the world record. Let's go to the chart. First chart. There we go. You can see that when he was 49 years old, that little red 804 means he bench pressed 804 pounds, which was a world record for an amateur, meaning he's drug tested. He's not on any enhancing drugs. And now I'm calling him 10 years later, and he says, my lift is in the toilet. I said, well, what are you doing? He's about 700 pounds. I said, Bill, for a 59-year-old, are you kidding me? That's a great amount of weight. And he said, well, it's a world record for a 59-year-old, but I don't get to compete with the elite guys anymore. They're all pushing 850, 900, a little over 900 pounds. And of course, they're all young. They're in their 30s. And I said, well, I think we can change that. He said, well, no, let me explain to you. I've got less lean muscle. I used to lift heavy 4 times a week. Now I can only lift heavy once a week. He said, I've got less lean muscle because that goes down as you age. He said, and then there's inflammation. He said, Steve, I've been weightlifting since I was 14 years old. My body's racked with inflammation. I wake up hurting. I hurt all day. I go to bed hurting. I don't sleep well because I'm hurting because of the inflammation. And I said, Bill, get ready. You're not going to believe what you're going to see. So I sent him the product, and I called him after a couple weeks, and he had worked out with it. And I said, what do you think? He said, Steve, I got to tell you, I'm already seeing a 25-pound gain in my bench. And I said, well, that doesn't sound like much. He said, no, I've been going straight down for 10 years. I'm finally not going down. I said, Bill, that's terrific. I said, how sore were you? And afterwards, because we really accelerate recovery. And he had just finished a workout that morning, and he goes, oh my gosh, I don't get sore anymore. I don't get stiff. He said, Steve, this is crazy. And my inflammation, he says, I don't hurt as much anymore. And I said, well, let's keep going at it and see how it goes. Let's show him how it went, Michael. There you go. Before he turned 60, he benched 915 pounds. At the age of 60, he benched 1,050 pounds, a new world record. And then at the age of 62, at his retirement meet, he successfully bench pressed 1,129.8 pounds. That's 512 kilos if you're on the metric system. That's the weight of a concert grand piano with a bench on top of it. No, that's just a tremendous amount of weight. So he fell in love with it. And then I gave it to another athlete, a gal that loved marathons. I don't know what was wrong with her. She was a former captain in the Army, and she loved 100-mile bike races. Well, she had a 100-mile bike race coming up, so I sent her the product. She got it on a Wednesday. She did a 30-minute sprint on her bike and broke her record. And then on Thursday, she did a 35-mile run and broke her record again. And then Saturday comes along, the big race. And in the first 35-mile leg, she breaks her record again. Woo! All excited. But in mile 37, 2 miles into the second leg, the bike in front of her hits the brakes. She hits him. The bike in back of her, she kind of runs with the men more than the women, and bike in back of her hits her. She goes end over end, hits the pavement so hard, it breaks her helmet, knocks her out. She wakes up in the hospital. Her face hit the pavement at 23 miles an hour, covered with scabs and road rash and abrasions. And the plastic surgeon came. She was in the hospital Saturday, Sunday, Monday, came home Tuesday night. On Saturday, the plastic surgeon comes in and she says, this is going to take 5 weeks to clear. And then you got to wait 2 months and then come see me, and we'll work out the protocol for the plastic surgery to take care of your scars. Well, while she was in the hospital, you get our product by swishing it like a mouthwash. So she's swishing in the hospital. People wonder what she's doing, but She's already seeing things that are blowing her away. And that's how it goes right into it absorbs into your bloodstream through your mucous membranes inside your cheeks and under your tongue. And she gets home on Tuesday and she thinks, hey, this stuff is small particle. Maybe it'll help my face get better. So she poured some on a cotton ball, applied it to all the affected areas. And then she did that 3 times on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Sunday, 5 days after topical application started, her face was completely clear, not a mark, not a scab, not an abrasion, not road rash. Everything was clear and no scars. The plastic surgeon had never seen anything like this. Now, I've owned 5 cosmetic companies. I had great spokespersons. I had Cher, I had Ali McGraw, Lisa Hartman, Meredith Baxter Burney, Kathy Lee Gifford, Angie Dickinson. And I knew cosmetics, I knew skincare. I loved makeup because you get great before and afters. I loved hair care with Cher because you get great before and afters. Skincare was always hard for me because I could not, even if you had a great product, until Botox came along, you couldn't get good before and afters. Well, I sent spray bottles with the product out to about 7 or 8 ladies and said, spray your face five times for 8 weeks. Take a picture before you start, and then take a picture at the 4-week mark and at the 8-week mark, and send them back to me. You know what I got? The most incredible before and afters I'd ever seen. And you can compare these. Let's zoom in on that, Michael. You can compare these to any cosmetic company, your favorite cosmetic label. I don't care if they're a multi-billion, some cosmetic companies do as much as $25, $30 billion in sales. You type in their name, any name of any cosmetic company, and right behind the name in the address bar, you type in skincare before and afters. You click, and then when the screen comes up, you go to images and you click on images, and you can see Estee Lauder, L'Oreal, any of those, you can see their before and afters. And guess what you're going to be doing? You're going to be moving real close to the screen. You're going to say, oh, I think I see that wrinkle's a little less. And sometimes they circle them in red pins to help you identify the differences. They're so slight. Well, can you see the difference here? You don't have to move up to your screen. You don't have to squint. It was amazing. It was the best before and after I ever saw. So I sent it to my former formulator, who had become the head formulator of the company that created Botox. He was senior vice president of R&D, research and development. And he got this picture right here, and he instantly called me. He said, Steve, I hate to tell you, she's had a facelift. I said, John, no, she hasn't. He says, there's no way a topical product could do that. Botox couldn't even do it. And I said, John, she is a farmer. She lives on a farm, works the farm, no needle, no laser, no scalpel has ever touched her face. This is all from, he says, well, then you've got something the rest of the world doesn't have. How are you doing it? Well, John's a good friend, so I told him I can trust him. And then we started getting more before and afters. And then when we launched Numi, we started getting before and afters like crazy. So we're going to show you some of those right now. Let's go ahead. This is Sherry Warner. She's a diamond. Let's go back to her for one more second. She was 58 here. And now she's about to turn 65. And her after picture now looks better than the one you're looking at when she was 58. That was in 7 weeks. Okay, let's go to the next one. Now, this was an experiment I did. My son wanted me to spray half my face. I said, Ryan, your mom will never go out with me again. And so I sprayed my right hand, but didn't spray my left hand. Can you see the difference? If you can't, please go see an ophthalmologist right away, because it's radical. It was radical for me. That was 12 weeks of spraying maybe 4 times a day. Okay, let's start looking at some other ones now. Okay, this lady's 84. When she sent us this picture, she had been spraying it for 4 weeks. And I said, how often do you spray? She says, I keep bottles all over the house. So anytime I pass a bottle, I spray. And just amazing. She's 84. Can you see a difference? I mean, is that just crazy? Let's go to the next one. This is the mother of one of our Numi family members. She's at 84, different lady. And she said, I used to have old lady legs. Now I have young lady legs. That is the same leg. Look at the difference. Okay, next. This lady she owns a skincare salon in Miami, Florida. She sent me this after 8 days. She said, Steve, Ryan, I can't wait 8 weeks. Look what it did in 8 days. Look how it opened up my eyes. Look where did my pores go? Look how smooth my skin is. Look how bright it is. There's nothing else in the world like this. And we agreed that was in 8 days. Next. Okay, this lady is 60 years old. Aaron and I met her when she came to the office, and she didn't look like the after picture here. She looked like the next picture. That was after 1 month. Look at her after 6 months. Okay, she looked like she was 40, 42 years old. Is that an amazing transformation? Yes, it gets better over time. It's not overnight, it's over time. But look at that. I mean, look how it opened her eyes. Here's what everybody sees, and you ought to write these down. Number one, everybody looks younger. Number two, everybody's complexion looks smoother, tighter, brighter. Okay. Now, all the biochemical activity that has to take place for that happens, it means evidently it seems like you're increasing elastin, which usually can't be increased after the age of 18. Collagen for sure. We have collagen in our product. We've miniaturized that as well. And but look at that. Okay, let's look at the next one. Hey, this guy is 67. Tighter, brighter, younger, smoother. It always happens. Look how much brighter it is. Same room, by the way, same lighting. Okay, next. Okay, that problem is lack of moisture. Their skin didn't have enough moisture, and that got changed in 10 days. This girl, she's younger, but look at how her pores disappeared. Look how it evened out her skin tone. She couldn't believe it. Next. This is the first picture I showed you was Sherry Warner. This is Sherry's 80-year-old mom at the time. 3 weeks, pretty crazy. And she was, needless to say, thrilled. Now she's 87, just as happy and as young looking as ever. She's amazing. Next. Okay, this lady was a smoker. Look how it wrinkled her neck and around her mouth. And in 8 weeks, whoa, you would never know she had a problem. Next. This was in 6 days. That's pretty dramatic for 6 days, more dramatic. She was probably spraying and swishing. A lot of these people spray and swish. So they use the topical that's in a spray and they also swish. Next. Okay, this lady's in Nigeria. She's over 80. Her daughter is a doctor there, and her daughter saw one of our people there and said, oh my gosh, you look so much better. Can I have a bottle for my mom? Which usually means, can I have a bottle for me? But she really did take it to her mom. And in 4 weeks, look what happened. That black area from in the upper hemisphere of her face, the upper half of her face, God bless you, sweetheart, and is the improper management of melon in her face. And you can see even that changed, how much brighter her skin is. Next. Okay, next. Sun damage. I love this guy. He's 97, 94, 97. I don't have it here. Can you see it, Michael? Oh, I'm trying to remember. 94. He's 94. I remember now. And that was in 8 months. And he said, I love the new look, but more important than the look, I feel like the guy on the right, not the guy on the left. Well, isn't that what we all want? Don't we want to feel younger and more vibrant? I'm 77 and I've got 17 grandkids. I have 7 children. And I always want to be able to play with my grandkids. When they come over, I want to give them a hug. They like to hear from Donald Duck. So I usually get Donald Duck on the phone. And my son, when he was much younger, one of my sons I lived in California. He lived in Philadelphia. And he'd say, Dad, is Donald in the beach house today? And I'd say, well, let me see Donald. And then, so anyway, I like doing that. I love time with my grandkids. Shannon does too. In fact, she's the best grandma I've ever seen. And she loves those grandkids. In fact, we get to take 4 of our granddaughters to musical called Frozen, not the movie, but theater performance. And we're all excited about that. But I don't want to, Ryan wants me to live to 94. He told me that when he was about 12 years old. And I said, why 94? And he instantly recited how old all the kids would be. And then he stole my heart with his last statement. He said, Hallie will still be a little young, Dad, but I'll take care of her. I mean, what 12-year-old thinks like that? So yes, I want to shoot for 94, but I don't want to be blink twice. If you agree. No, I want to engage my grandkids, my grandkids range from 25 down to not quite a year. And we love them all. And so I want to keep that going. Okay, let's go back to some of these pictures real quick. Oh no, we've done all the pictures. I think we've done. Did we show how many 20,000 was, Michael? Did we show?
I can bring that up.
Okay. Let's talk about what glutathione does. Every cell in your body, you have 37.5 trillion if you don't count the bacteria that lives in your gut. 37.5 trillion. Some people round it up to 50 trillion, but say just 37.5 trillion. Every one of those cells is attacked by at least 20,000 free radicals a day, the enemy of the cell. What does the free radical do? It steals a free electron from the cell. And when that happens, it creates a condition called oxidative stress, too much oxygen to process, and that damages the cell. That produces a lot of inflammation, our mortal enemy. And here's the part just as bad. It accelerates aging. So of every tissue, of every organ, do you want a heart that gets older faster or stays younger longer? How about a brain? You want your mind to stay sharp longer, or do you want it to get older faster? How about your kidneys, your liver, your lungs, your muscles, your joints? We want to keep them as young and vibrant as we can, and glutathione is the key when it's effectively delivered. And we're going to get into that in just a second. So let's see where I was. So the first thing it does, it is your body's master antioxidant. Let's show them what 20,000 people look like. Here it comes. And there it is. So imagine you're on the center court. That's where the Chicago Bulls basketball, that's where Michael Jordan played most of his games. And imagine you're center court and the announcer announces to those 20,000 people, hey, anybody that can land a blow to the guy in the middle, you get $1 million. Instantly, the stands would empty. They'd be fighting each other to get to me. I mean, I wouldn't have a chance. You wouldn't have a chance. That's what every cell in your body, brain cells, heart cells, liver cells, they go through that every single day. In 5 days, look what happens. 100,000 attacks. Every cell in 5 days. Look at that. And you wouldn't have a chance against 100,000 to 1. Well, that's what your cells have to fight. And thankfully, God made your body so amazing. He came up with solutions for every problem. And that's a big one. Oxidative stress and inflammation. Inflammation is a root cause for nearly every disease state. Okay. And how do antioxidants work? An antioxidant donates one of its electrons to the free radical. And when that donation takes place, it sequesters the free radical, captures it, and neutralizes it so it can't do damage. Now, the problem is there is a spectrum, a whole host of free radicals. They have different sources. Some are sourced from hydrogen in your body, some from oxygen, some from nitrogen. They have different chemical compositions. They have different structures. All antioxidants, except for glutathione, are monofocus. So vitamin E can take out that one. Let's see, get them back here. Take out that one, but it leaves all these bad boys. Vitamin C can take out that one. Vitamin E, CoQ10, superoxide dismutase, catalase, but they leave a lot more than they resolve, than they neutralize. Glutathione is called the master antioxidant for two reasons. It's the most abundant in your body. Every cell in your body has a glutathione factory in it that produces glutathione for that cell. You have 37 trillion glutathione factories. You see, glutathione isn't a natural molecule. It takes three peptides, three amino acids, glycine, glutamic acid, and cysteine, and it sews them together into one molecule called glutathione. That sewing together is a 100 sequential step electrochemical process. And it was there on day one of mankind. Is God amazing or what? So glutathione is there's a million times more glutathione in your body than any other antioxidant. But it's the only antioxidant. It is not monofocused. They call it the master antioxidant. You know, a master key to a hotel can open any door in the hotel. Well, as the master antioxidant, glutathione can sequester and neutralize all free radicals, regardless of their source, structure, or type. And today we have a lot more free radicals than we had earlier on in life. Why? Because we have more chemicals and so on. Did you know that those microwaves from the cell towers enter your body, and when they react with the nitrogen in your body, they produce a free radical that is terrible. It's called peroxynitrite, not nitrate, peroxynitrite. It lives 1 billion times longer than oxygen-based free radicals. It can actually transfer from one cell to the other. Ooh, that's bad. And it attacks your mitochondrial DNA. Why is that bad? Because as long as the mitochondrial DNA in your cell stays intact, the cell can't mutate and multiply. But when it's broken, the cell is then at risk for being mutating and multiplying. Two things break the mitochondrial DNA. Number one is the free radical can do it, but more than the free radical, the toxic load, the chemical load in your cells. Everybody on this call, all of you have at least 217 industrial chemicals that don't belong in your body. How can that be? That's all they tested for. There's 80,000 chemicals in our environment. We breathe them, we drink them. Some are even come into our body through touch. Do you know there's one real bad boy that they use to coat computer keyboards, or the circuitry under the keyboard? Why do they coat it? Because it absorbs and disperses the heat. If they didn't do that, your computer would melt. You wouldn't be able to touch the keys. They'd be so hot. So that's unnecessary. But that's the only thing that chemical is used for. When they looked at the umbilical cords of 2,000 babies, cross-section of general population, they wondered how many of these chemicals are we going to find in the umbilical cord, which ends up, that means they get into the fetus. And out of the 217 they tested for, every umbilical cord had all 217, including the chemical that disperses that heat. It's only used on keyboards. And yet it transfers through touch or through vapors it's very quietly emitting that we don't know about. And so anyway, we have a chemical problem. Well, those chemicals in our cells will break the mitochondrial DNA. Dr. Dean Jones of Emory University, a world-renowned microbiologist, was addressing a cancer symposium. And he said, if we want to prevent cancer, we must find ways. This was years ago, before any of my products were invented. We must look for and find ways to lower the chemical load in the cells. Why? Because the chemicals break the mitochondrial DNA. And if we can find a way to raise glutathione levels, which detoxify the cell, we can lower the toxic load in the cell and preserve the integrity of the mitochondrial DNA for a longer period of time. So glutathione is the detoxifier of your cells. It has this real sticky sulfhydryl molecule that, like fly paper or spider traps, attaches to the chemical and neutralizes it. Okay, that's pretty cool. So that's a third thing that glutathione does. It's a detoxifier by the cell. So by detoxifying the cell, lowering the cellular load, and by mediating the free radicals, it gives added protection to the mitochondrial DNA. Critical. So those are just a few of the things. I have one thing I left out is the immune system. We found out during the pandemic, millions of people, tens of millions got COVID, millions died, but millions more didn't die. And there was a scientist, a Russian scientist, who published a paper in an American journal. It was published because it was such a breakthrough. And the study was called Low Levels of Endogenous Glutathione as the Primary Cause of Severe Symptoms and Death with COVID-19 patients. Why is that? If you have lower glutathione levels, your T cells, they're the assassins that are sent to attack bacterial and viral insults. If the virus and the bacteria are reproducing at a rapid rate, they come into your body, you start to feel a little sick, not bad. Then all of a sudden, whoa, man, I can't even hardly take a breath. Okay, because they're reproducing at a rapid rate. The higher your glutathione levels, the faster your T cells that attack those bacteria and viruses, the faster they can reproduce. So they can catch up with the virus or bacteria and ultimately destroy it. And glutathione is the key to that. People with high glutathione levels, by and large, didn't die. They may have gotten sick. I was hospitalized the first time I got COVID, but I never went into what's called the cytokine storm because my glutathione levels were high enough to keep me from it. And the cytokine storm is this rapid inflammation in the lining of your lungs that becomes host to pneumonia, and that pneumonia was killing COVID-19 patients. This scientist, and it was published in the American Journal of Infectious Diseases, which is top of the ladder when it comes to infectious diseases. He basically said people with high glutathione levels didn't die, which is why most young people didn't die. Kids automatically have higher glutathione levels. Your glutathione levels decrease starting at the age of 20 by 8 to 15% per decade. So if you take 10% decline, at 77, I have 65% less glutathione today than I had at the age of 20. But the desperate need to fight all those battles, to get rid of the toxins, to protect the immune system, that never decreases. So you're fighting a war with fewer bullets. And so I learned about that from these brilliant scientists. So I started putting a lot of money into glutathione distribution and development. But the problem is, if you go to your health food store or online, you can buy glutathione capsules anywhere. As soon as the glutathione hits the stomach, it breaks. And your cells will not accept a broken molecule. They're better than that. They won't do it. So to get around it, what happened? Let's see if I can find something. Oh, some wrapping paper from Christmas. So brilliant manufacturers have taken that tiny little glutathione molecule that's about 1 nanometer. By the way, a strand of hair that you can't even see there, that's 80,000 nanometers thick, 80,000. Your cells are only 100 nanometers in diameter, and the pores that product can enter your cells through what's called passive diffusion, doesn't require any additional energy. Those pores are only 10 nanometers. Well, glutathione, good news is glutathione is only a nanometer. But when you wrap it in a liposome, it gets wrapped up, and guess what? Now it's anywhere between 50 and 300 nanometers. So what happens? It can't get in the cell. It is too big. So it sits on top of the cellular membrane and may surround the wall of a membrane, but it doesn't get in. It relies on other energy forces to shove and push and get it in the membrane. Once it's in the membrane, what gets into the membrane, some of it can migrate to the cytoplasm, which is where all the activity takes place, and that's what you want. Well, our particle size is so small, it goes right in. It's called passive diffusion versus forced diffusion. And guess what? We see things nobody ever imagined seeing. You saw the before and afters here. We have a medical board. Michael, would you bring up our medical board? We're almost done with this presentation.
Just give me a tick.
Okay. There's your tick.
All right, here we go. 10 seconds, and we're nearly there.
Okay, let's scroll down so they see we have more than 3. All of these are brilliant doctors and scientists. They're from Harvard, Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Sloan Kettering, and many. They're just amazing. And why do they serve on our board for free? Because they have seen with their clients amazing things they've never expected. Would you ever expect a 60-year-old to perform 40% better than when he was in his prime and set his first world record? No, that doesn't make sense. It does if you knew what our product is doing. How do we get glutathione into the cell? We don't wrap it with a fat, a liposome. We wrap it with what's called water clusters, specialized water that we manufacture. We treat, we specialize this water. We wrap it. It's 40% more pure than a hospital IV. That's pretty pure. It's 25% more pure than the water used by pharmaceutical companies. So we have this incredibly pure water. We treat it in a special way. That's part of our trade secret. We introduce it into a processor that we own. Nobody else has this processor. We throw our ingredients in, and then it wraps these nanoparticles, these molecules, we're down to the size of a molecule, wraps them in water clusters. And the result is we are so tiny, we easily pass through the cell. One of our doctors on our board is Dr. Sotiris Nikolopoulos in Greece. His postdoctorate, 6 years, was at Sloan Kettering Cancer Research. He is a cellular and genetic mastermind. He is a brilliant scientist. Well, he got on our product and saw such a radical difference. Guess who gave it to him? A professor of 42 years from the medical school that's affiliated with Harvard in Athens. And she said, you got to try this. He said, what is it? She said, glutathione. He says, I already am on a liposomal glutathione out of Germany. It's the best. She said, it's not like this. He tried it right before he did a 10,000 step walk, which always left him totally spent and fatigued. He did his walk and he felt great. He felt like he could walk another 10,000 steps. And so he started giving it to his clients and saw such radical differences. He started doing tests, and he called me up after some of these tests, and he said, Steve, what you have is so much bigger than what you think. You can't even imagine the breakthrough you have in your HydraStat delivery and your HydraStat delivery of glutathione. It's going to change medical therapies down the road, HydraStat will, you have no idea. I said, well, I've got a pretty good imagination. He says, no, from all of our discussions, you don't have a clue. I admit, guess what? He's become like all of our friends in Greece. He's become a good friend. We have such a great Greek team led by Andreas and George Patakis. Anyway, we have a lot of associates, and I try to remember, but George is amazing. He operates out of a wheelchair. And what it's done for his life, he can't even believe. Andres, Sotiris, it goes on and on. We had a little meeting there. I was there last year. They had 550 people, and over 100 of them were doctors. They were there because they had heard from this professor and Dr. Nikolopoulos how incredible this product was. A father got up and started crying as he told his story of his family. It's amazing. Now, why are you on this call and why am I on this call? I can't get to anybody you can get to. So we're in our 74 countries with tens of thousands of NUMMI family members. Why? Because of you and because of the people you bring to these calls, which is why we have these calls. This is what I call a legacy business. What's that mean? It means that when you share this breakthrough with friends, relatives, your neighbors, whoever you share it with, you have the potential of changing a life that has better performance, greater longevity, better health, faster recovery. All of that because you share something with them. Well, guess what? They become a different person in their family. A person with low performance ability, where little things become overwhelming. They're not the same person. When they get freed from that, and all of a sudden they have the energy to perform throughout the day, oh my gosh, you've changed their life. You've changed their family's life. You change a family and you've changed generations. That's a legacy. I had a product called Where There's a Will, There's an A, and with this we'll close. And we introduced it in 1988. And it could take D students in high school, college, junior high, and turn them into A students after 3.5 hours, believe it or not. It was amazing. Well, one football team, college football team used it. It was University of Maryland. And because they had 34 ineligible players because of bad grades. And all those players not only got good grades, a lot of them made the dean's list and the honor roll, but they learned that they could learn. And one of the things this seminar said, and this applies to all of you, the professor said, if you want to be an entrepreneur, don't wait till you graduate from college, become one right now. And so the football coach at University of Maryland said, okay, guys, 3 weeks from now, you're all going to tell me about the business you're going to start while you're here at the university. You can partner with each other. You can be a sole proprietor. Don't care, but you're all going to start one. And you're going to tell the team what you're doing. Well, the day before those reports were to be given, one team member comes to John Baxter, the coach, and says, Coach, I don't want to tell the team yet. And he said, why? He said, because they're going to be my consumers. He said, well, what are you doing? He says, I make all of my undershirts out of my sister's slips. And they keep me warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer. And once you play in it, you'll never get a cotton t-shirt again. And he says, so I've got the sizes of everybody on the team. I'm going to make 3 shirts for everybody. I'm going to give them one. And after they do one practice in that shirt, they're going to knock on my door and they're saying, hey, I need more. And I'll sell them the next 2. And if it works in the spring, when I graduate from college, I'll do that at colleges all over America. And John Baxter said, his guy's name was Kevin Plank. John says, Kevin, great idea, but you can't call your company My Sister's Slips. And he said, no, Coach, I've got a good name. He said, what are you going to call it? He said, I'm going to call it Under Armour. So where there's a will, there's an A. Our product has a legacy. It allowed a guy to create Under Armour, which today is in almost every country in the world, tens of thousands of employees. You see shirts, caps, all that from Under Armour. That's a legacy business. Now, when we created Where There's a Will, there's an A, did we think, well, somebody's going to take it seriously and start Under Armour? No, it's a legacy. When you change somebody's life, you change a family. When you change the family, you have changed generations. Now, I'm not asking anybody to become a salesman. I don't like to. I just got a new car. Why? Because my family's worried about my safety. So they got me a self-driving car. And I get chauffeured around now by this self-driving car. And I will tell you, when you change somebody's life, you change everything around them, especially when you change we've had it proven in tests that we delay the onset of lactic acidosis for endurance athletes by 16%. Nothing else in the world can change it by 1%. And that was tested by a sports medicine group in Spain. They have 25 clinics throughout Europe, and they only treat professional athletes. And he called the head of that, Dr. Osorios. We brought him onto our medical board after he called me and said, guess what? You're delaying lactic acidosis. I said, does anything else delay it? Nope. You guys move the needle like nobody. It's the biggest game changer I've ever seen. And that's changing lives. We had one athlete. Well, I won't even tell that story. That's a medical story. So never mind. Okay. Get the picture. We need you. And you say, well, I don't want to be a salesman. That's where I was going. We don't want you to be a salesman. You know what we want you to be? We want you to be a light. We want you to be the person. Oops, let's see if I can figure this out. Watch this. That turns on the light. That's all. You turn on a light switch with other people by telling them about this breakthrough. And you don't even have to tell them. You can send them a video. We tell them about the breakthrough in videos and just little presentations. You don't, and guess what? Because of our app, you'll be notified when they watch the video. So you can call them and say, what did you think? What did you like most about that video? And you've got a conversation, but you don't ever have to sell. I don't like salesmen. Don't ever pressure anybody. Just turn on the light. Let them see what you have. Let them see their need for it. Everybody needs it. Everybody. Because as we age, our glutathione levels go down. If we have a disease state, a problem, an injury, it goes down. And you've got an answer. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it back to Michael. Michael, don't we have another call tomorrow? Only it's not me. What's going on tomorrow?
All right. Thank you for the prompter. So thank you, Steve, for an amazing call. I just wanted to finish up by saying, guys, if you're on here brand new today, the one thing you want to do right now, if you're on Facebook, is head on over to New Me, New You, which is a Facebook group. And it's the company's official one. If you go down there, lots of events are listed. We've got a thing called the New Year kickoff going on at the moment. So you can invite people to any of these events, whether it's Greece, whether it's Australia, whether it's Poland, etc. And that's why and lots of testimonials in this group, this is the special event happening tomorrow. All I'm going to say is that we have our scientist, Bert Wonnacott, joining on the call. He has never done a call in Australia before. So it is going to be a spectacular launch of something. We'll leave it at that. And if you have any contacts in Australia and New Zealand, please get them on tomorrow's call. Final thing I'll say is good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And Steve, I cannot wait to hear about your self-driving car because I've been in the car with you before. So this is good news.
Yeah, yeah, my son said I can now have my grandkids in the car.
There you go. All right.
Okay.
See you, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Love you all.